G shape, D chord, pentatonic, and major scale position 1, or G shape, D chord, scale position. Get ready because it's time to rock and or roll. Here we are in our worksheet where we have the top string on top, that being the low or heavy E string, string closest to the ceiling, the high E string on the bottom, the one closest to the floor, the 0 representing the open fret, the one which, if indicated, we would not be fingering down, but rather ringing out as open, the frets 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on, the ones that we would be fingering if indicated in this case by the orange items on down below. We're now looking at the G shape in the D chord position, recapping the G shape in the open position up top where we typically learn it, remembering that as you learn the G shape, you want to see it as a G shape in the open position. You don't say that, but you want to learn that so that when you move the shape up, you can still call it a G shape in the open position without your mind contradicting yourself when you then say that it is an A chord or a B chord or a C chord and so on and so forth. We're going to name it as a G, noting the root note here, which is going to be the note that will be the indicator that we will follow up as we move the shape up to indicate what chord that we will be in. We note that there are a lot of open items. It's a nice full shape. We probably, as we move it down, will not be able to finger in the same way the open items down here, but that's okay. It's less of a bar chord, in other words, for most people than say the movable A shape or movable E shape, but it's still a useful movable shape, especially for finger pickers that can be picking the top strings and the strings at the bottom. It also will help you to position yourself where you are on the neck and allow you then to voice different voicings of the chords and pick along with the song. So you still want to be able to move the shape up. If we were to move it up, for example, we could move it up to notice the sharps here. We're not going to here because we're just going to move to the next position of an A, and then we're going to move it up to the B, then we moved it up to the C, and now we're moving it up to the D. So note that as we have it in the D position, this note right here is going to be the one that tells us what the chord position is. So now we're in a D chord. We don't have to play all the notes in the chord. We don't need to reposition our hand in order to try to play this and say a bar chord. We could use the same shape, for example, and play the notes up top. We could then try to use a shape like this to get a chord shape that in essence would be a D. This would be a remnant of the A. The G is going to be linked in essence to the A shape. So we've got that there. We've got the chords at the bottom that we can experiment with down here as well. If, for example, someone was playing a song in the key of D back here, and we wanted to accentuate it up top and move up in a different voicing up top to do so. Let's take a look a little bit at the theory for the D chord. Just to recap, so if we listed out all the notes from D to D, D to D, and then did our whole half thing, what are they going to be the notes in the D major chord? We got the D, skipping a note, whole step, in other words, to E, whole step to F sharp, half step to G, whole step to A, whole step to B, whole step to C sharp, and then back on home, resolving back to D. So the notes in the D major are going to be the D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, and then D. We can number them 1 through 7. If we take the 1, 3, 5 to construct our major chord, we're looking D, F sharp, and A. D, F sharp, and A. That's what we should be finding here under our fingers. There's the D, there's the F sharp, there's the A, there's the D, there's the F sharp, and there's another D on down below. So we've got a nice full structure here, which we don't have to play at the same time. We only need 3 chords if we try to voice the same D chord another way, and you don't always need the D on top. So for example, you can play these 3 items down below to get a voicing of it as well, and you can basically use this to arpeggiate over the top if someone is playing a song in the key of D. Let's go ahead and take a look at our pentatonic now. So I'm going to unhide some cells over here. Let's unhide some cells. Unhide, and let's just quickly go to the left here to look at our pentatonic scale. So this is the position 1 that we talked about when in the key of C or A minor. So this is a position that many people will learn as kind of like the pentatonic position, but you now can see that the G is inside of it. So we're going to basically move that position, which I would call basically, position 1 in the pentatonic scales if played in C major or A minor, now in the key of D. So here we have it. There's our pentatonic position that's familiar to many people, now playing here, where you can call it a G shape. And when you say that, you say G shape, but you don't say, but you have in your head in the open position. And then you could say it's a G shape pentatonic scale, because this whole position in terms of the 5 notes will be following that G shape chord as you move it around, and then in the key of D, because this G shape is pointing to the root note of a D right there. Or in other words, you can call it a G shape when it was in the open position chord in the key of D, because when I play this G shape, I'm pointing to that D pentatonic scale, because the pentatonic scale is saying you're adding the 2 other notes over and above the 3 notes in the major scale to get to the pentatonic scale, allowing you then to experiment with different voicings of the chord, possibly by adding the blue items would be the next ones to add, and or using the whole pentatonic scale to pick on over a song. If the song was in a key of D, for example, then as long as your home base is really these D chords, you could pick around oftentimes, and then you want to be playing kind of around the root note. Remember that that's kind of a key component here. You often, with these shapes you're looking at, you want to, if you're picking around with it over a song, you want to be playing around the root note. And if you know what the progressions are changing in the song, you could try to play around the different notes that are being played, even if you're staying in the same position. Let's take a look at the major component now. So now we got the same thing. We just add the other 2 notes. So now we could say this is a G-shaped major scale position, which basically means it's a G-shaped chord, major scale position. That's this whole kind of set of notes in the key of D, because we're pointing to the D. Or you might phrase it this way. You're going to say this is a G-shaped position when you're in the home position in the key of D, because when I put my finger down, I have it on the key of D, major scale, which is indicating that you're now adding the notes going from 3 to 7 to play the full major scale position within it, allowing you a few more options to be playing over a song, for example, or to accentuate chords and whatnot and practice different voicings of them. So going back to our theory here, if we were to list 1 through 7 for the notes in the D major, then the chords that you could typically play then would typically be a D major, an E minor, an F sharp minor, a G major, an A major, a B minor, a C sharp diminished, which would often drop off. So then if you were playing the 1, 4, 5, you'd be playing the D, the G, and the A majors. And as you're playing along with that shape, you can basically pick along in the D shape, playing the most safe thing, arpeggiating, and then you can add the pentatonic, the second most safe thing to do, and then the third most safe thing to do within that shape would be playing all 7 notes, picking around, most likely the D, hanging around the D area. And then you can also experiment moving the shape as the chord song progresses from a D to a G to an A, and move this shape around to accommodate the changes in the song. So those couple of ways you can do that. And again, this shape in a pentatonic scale is probably one that most people see as a maneuverable kind of shape.